Cool. So thank you everybody for coming, and welcome to Algolia Search Party. So Abe is an engineer that works at Firebase. He loves working on really cool projects. I spent the day getting to know Abe online before we met in person because I'm really cool like that.
That is cool.
So, yeah.
Tell me more about me.
Well, Abe, you are known for chatting on Firecasts,
Yeah.
your cool podcasts, and also your really super sweet Twitter handle, that Abe is great. So if you guys want, go find him on Twitter and talk about it. It actually he was brought up in like Google I/O this year, which I thought was pretty fun. And then also, you also hear him talking about being really adventurous and drinking caffeinated tea after 8 p.m.
Yeah. It was 4 p.m.
I know, I made 8 p.m. to see if you remembered your tweets. Anyway, so this is Abe. He's going to talk to us about bringing Algolia, Firebase, and Google Apps in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Without further ado.
Thank you. All right. So, as she said, my name is Abe. I'll get in more to me in a second. But right now, I need to have a general idea of who I'm talking to so I know how deep I can dive into different topics without losing everyone. So I'm going to ask a couple of show of hands questions, and if you could please participate, it would be very helpful to me. So how many people here are developers of some form? Mostly everyone, okay. How many people write JavaScript or Node on a semi-regular basis? Okay, mostly everyone. How many people like Haskell? Nerds. All right. So our goal today is to take that amazing search tool API thing called Algolia and mix that with some of the awesomeness that is Firebase and Google Cloud. We'll talk more about exactly what that looks like, but out of the gate, I want to tell you what our goal is. We want to build photo search. If you've ever used Google Photos, you might have seen that there's this awesome functionality where you upload a bunch of photos, and then later you can type and say, I want to find bear. I want to find every time I took a picture of a bear. And it can do that. It uses awesome machine learning APIs that Google has developed by making Google Images for years and years to catalog all of your photos without you needing to tag it or ever say what is in that photo. Now, Algolia is great at searching text, but it doesn't let us do that. We can't upload an image to Algolia and have it give us back, I can't upload a picture of a dog and search dog and get it. But if we add in just a little bit of Google Cloud and a little bit of Firebase, we can make that functionality. So that's what we're going to work on today. So, quick agenda. Who am I? Abe Haskins. We'll go into that. Second, what is Google Cloud? What is Firebase? What parts of those products are we using? And then we'll get into actually working on the code and building out this feature. So, Abe Haskins, I'm a Google engineer. Firebase, I've been working on Firebase for a very long time. Firebase got bought by Google a while ago. Been working at Google for a while. But my job at Google is to help people understand and build with Firebase. So if you have any Firebase questions after this, if they're related to this talk, definitely ask them on the fancy website. But if they're not related, just grab me. I'll be happy to talk about anything you're building, except if it's an iOS question, then I won't be any help. But any other platform we support, I will be happy to talk about. What is Google Cloud? How many people know what Google Cloud is? All right, that's pretty good. I know a surprising amount of people have no idea what Google Cloud is. Google Cloud is our infrastructure as a service offering. This is where we take all of the things, very cool people built inside of Google, we make them usable by humans, and then we give to you to build on top of. Most of the parts of Google Cloud, our infrastructure for running virtual machines, our container engine, our functions, infrastructure, app engine, all our machine learning stuff, this all comes from internal products we've developed at Google that we then wrap up in nice APIs and nice services for you to use. So if you're familiar with AWS, this is kind of Google's AWS with more of a focus on machine learning and other smart systems like that. Next, Firebase is related to Google Cloud, but it is not Google Cloud. Firebase is a whole bunch of different stuff. Just like Google Cloud, it's a mixture of different features and tools that you can use. The important thing to remember with Firebase is mobile and web APIs that let you interact with the power of Google Cloud without actually writing server-side code. Mostly everything in Google Cloud is designed to be interacted with from a server-side API, or it's a place to run your code. But with Firebase, we have serverless solutions. We have solutions where your mobile app talks directly to some awesome API, lets you upload photos directly without a server, store data without a server, send push notifications without a server. All of these things that would normally require you to have this intermediary node script or this intermediary server, we take care of for you because they're things everyone has to do. OAuth, authentication, crash reporting, all these things. It's too much to get into, and today we're not going to try to get into it. We only have 15 minutes, so we have to focus. And we're going to pick two main features to talk about. And we'll talk about what we're talking about in the what are we using section. So, what are we using today? First, if we're going to deal with photos, we sure as hell have to upload photos. So we are using Google Cloud Storage for Firebase, which is an API that lets you go on a website and say upload a photo, and it throws it up into the cloud, and you never have to think about it again. There's no intermediary server, no checking of file types or anything like that. We take care of all of that for you, so you don't have to deal with any of the pain of uploading a photo. Second, we're using Google Cloud Functions for Firebase. This one gets this cool little graph because it's a little bit confusing. How many people are familiar with the idea of a cloud function, a lambda, any of these? All right, a little more than half. I'll cover it in general. Imagine you write one function and you throw it at the cloud. You just roll it up and you're like, here, cloud. And then the cloud takes it, and anytime you want that function back, it'll say, okay, I made copies of it, I've scaled this up, I've relocated where the function is running around the world. I will just execute that one function for you very quickly, and as soon as I'm done, I will tear down the environment so you're not paying for server time when your function isn't being ran. In Firebase, this looks like this container of functions that gets triggered by different event sources. We'll talk more about what the code for those look like, but to give you some idea, we can trigger a function based off a bunch of different events. This could mean I wrote to my database, and just by the act of writing to it, it triggers this function to run. Or a new user gets created, and just by the act of creating a user, it goes and runs this function that can then send them an email or send a push notification or text me and say, hey, someone signed up. There's a whole bunch of different options, and you're not really limited at all in terms of what your function does. You can send emails, push notifications, index things to Algolia perhaps. I don't know, we might talk about that. You can do a whole bunch of cool stuff, but the more limiting factor is what can trigger these functions. And in Firebase, there's a bunch of options. The interesting one today is the file storage trigger. So we can say anytime somebody uploads a file, run a cloud function. And that's what we're going to use to evaluate the files being uploaded, take a look at them, understand them, and then eventually index that. So in order to understand what's being uploaded, we have to go and we have to use some machine learning magic. And this is the type of stuff where if you ask me how does cloud storage for Firebase work, I'd be able to tell you in general. If you ask me how does Cloud Vision API work, I will not be able to tell you at all. I will be able to tell you there is a REST endpoint, and you give it a URL. And then it says that's a picture of a sailboat. And it says that's a picture of a sun, that's a picture of a golden retriever. All this crazy stuff that honestly a lot of the time I wouldn't even know. It can identify dog breeds. I can't comprehend how that possibly works. I'm guessing it's related to the 500 petabytes of images Google has, but I don't actually know. So this is part of Google Cloud, and this is going to be the only part of Google Cloud we'll really be using today. Like I said, Google Cloud is really focused on machine learning and all these really powerful AI type APIs. So we're just going to use a little bit of this sprinkled on top of Firebase, mixed with Algolia, to build up a photo search. So with that, let us get to hacking. The very first thing you need to do, and you can't really follow along, we're going to do this too fast, but I'm going to walk you through all the steps. Very first thing we need to do is set this up. If you go to firebase.google.com, the Firebase has a free tier. It's very generous. You can play around with it. You can definitely do everything we're talking about here today on the free tier. Just go, sign up, sign in with Google, and get set up. Once you're there, you get this screen that says create a project, name your project, whatever you possibly desire, and you're ready to go. If you've ever used Google Cloud, you'll notice there's a lot of similarities here. And in fact, every Google Cloud project is a Firebase project. They share resources and billing and things like that. But they have different consoles because one is much more client-focused, mobile and web-focused, and one is infrastructure and server-focused. Once we've created that, you'll see this screen that just says, hey, do you want to add Firebase to your iOS app, add it to your web app, Android app? We're not going to do any of that right now. We actually don't want to add it anywhere because the only part we really care about today is our functions. And that's not tied to any specific client. So we're going to go and we're going to get into the terminal and dig in. We're going to install the Firebase tools, which are the Firebase command line tools. This just lets us control and modify our Firebase settings from the command line. And then we'll set up a new Firebase project. This will pull in some templating, folders, stuff like that. And the important part is it will generate an index.js file in the functions folder. And in this index.js file, it's just normal JavaScript. This is going to build the function we can deploy to our server that'll go into the sky and get scaled and repeated and handle 10,000 QPS. But it's just normal JavaScript code. And if you're familiar with like writing an Express app, you can just expose an Express app as a function, and it will handle all the scaling and everything cool about that. In this case, we're going to pull in a bunch of different APIs that we're going to need. So we're going to need the Firebase functions library to deal with the actual functions environment. We're going to need the Cloud Vision API to call the Vision API. We're going to need Algolia Search to do indexing. And then we're just going to, initialize a little bit of that. You might see this magical bit here, that's functions.config. Those are just environmental variables we can set up for Firebase. To set those up, it looks like this. We just call on the command line. The Algolia ID is this, the Algolia secret is this, and then it's tied securely to the environment. So you're never going to accidentally check in your secrets. They're just in the environment, and if you have a production environment and a staging environment, it's really easy for your application to look and inherit those from the environment without config files or config.jsons or any junk like that. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm pulling in those libraries, configuring my stuff, and pointing it at my new index called photos. All right, once we're done with that, we can get into the actual event handler. And this is where we say what our function reacts to. Is everyone pretty familiar with ES6 syntax? People can read this, yes, no? Okay. So if you're not, this is just shorthand for a function. So this is a function that takes event as an argument. So what we're doing here is we're exporting. We're basically building a functions module that the function environment can import. And we're exporting something that is a function storage object on change handler. So anytime any object changes, anytime someone uploads something or deletes something, this function will get called. So if that upload comes from the console, if we manually go upload something like we're going to do, this will trigger. If somebody uploads it using one of the SDKs, it will trigger this. So you don't have to worry about where the object is coming from, where the file is coming from. This will handle it. As a tangent, like I said, there's a bunch of different things you can react to. And these are so many different ways to trigger functions. These are different event types that you can all mix and match inside of your one functions module. So here, first one, storage. If I upload a file, trigger this. Second one is a database trigger. So if I write to this location in my database, if I create a new user, it will trigger this function. Auth.useronCreate is if somebody new signs in. If it's the first time you've signed in with your Google account, if you sign in with your Twitter account, whatever, that will trigger this function. We have analytics in Firebase as well. So anytime a certain type of log comes in, you can run these. You can see there's a ton of flexibility and a bunch of different options. Not going to cover them all here, but you can do a whole bunch, and they all work basically the same way. You export a function name, give it a type like this, and run some arbitrary code. So let's actually write our function. There's nothing really special here. That event object that gets passed into our function has some metadata about what the file that got uploaded is. So when I upload a file, it'll give me the bucket name, which is just like kind of the hard drive, the folder that it's in, and it will give you the name of the file, so cat.jpg. Then we will take that and we'll build up a request that we will eventually pass to the Vision API, and that just has the source of it, and more importantly, the features. So the Vision API is a very complicated or very powerful API. In this case, we're only going to use label detection. We only want to know what's in the image. If there is, for example, text in the image, we don't really care about that. We could easily extend that, and we could just say type is text detection or landmark detection if we want to know if it's a picture of the Eiffel Tower. There's a bunch of different options here, but in this case, we only want general labels about what is in that picture. So that's this request we've created here. Then we just call the Vision API, call annotate image with that request object, and we get back a response that has label annotations on it. Now there's a little bit of JavaScripty, mayhem in here to condense that label annotations list of objects down into just a list of tags. All I want is it to be an array that has dog, golden retriever, grass, field, just so it's something Algolia can index and understand. We don't need any of the confidence ratios or any of the other fancy stuff that the Vision API gives back, so I just throw that all away. Then the last thing we do is we create an object that has that tag on it and has the URL of the object that we just got from the event. and then we call index.addObject, just like you ever would when you're dealing with Algolia. And with this, we've now taken an image. By just the act of uploading the image, we processed it, understood it, and we've handed it off to Algolia to index. So if we had, for example, a modified version of the instant search page that Algolia gives you, we could try this. Now, you got to deploy this. This is simple. Firebase deploy. Go to the storage tab, upload a file, for example, it's dog, and you will see, it's kind of hard to see, it's a little small, but you'll see it has those tags that you'd expect. Now this is cool, but it's not a real demo. So let's actually do this for real and hope it doesn't break. It's a little risky, but we're going to give it a shot. I had to restart my laptop like 5 times too, so almost everything is definitely gone, like this tab. It's definitely gone, so I have to go reopen that. What did I call this file? That would have been, oh, it's on my desktop. So you don't have to pay attention to what I'm doing there. So Firebase Serve just runs a local development server with all the Firebase magic, so I can refresh this page. And this is, in fact, as I indicated, a modified version of the instant search page. If we go over to my Algolia app, my index, my index is empty. There's nothing in here. If we go over to my logs for my function, this is just so I know what's going on, what's happening. We can see as things process. And lastly, we go over to my storage folder, which only has _extras, which is just some temporary files that's actually not related to this talk. So we can upload a file, and if everything works, as soon as I upload a file here in the console, it'll just hit that train of events, and I'll be able to instant search it back on this page. So let's try that. Let's say I'm going to go to my desktop, probably open up my photos folder. Some great pictures of puppies. We'll try this one first. Oh no, I forgot how to upload stuff. Sorry, 1 second. You might have to drag it over this. Oh, that worked. All right, so we'll upload this dog. He's a beautiful golden retriever. Takes a second to upload it. If we wanted to, we can go over and we can look in the logs and we can wait and see if we can find the execution of this function. Realistically though, by the time I'm able to scan the logs and figure out where it was invoked, there you go, so we can see it in the logs. Took about 1.5 seconds to run, hit the API. We hop over here to Algolia, refresh, and there is our dog. Dog breed, golden retriever. And if we go back to our instant search page, refresh that, of course he shows up. If we type in dog, he's still there. If we type in cat, instant search cuts it away. So that's kind of cool, but search isn't very good with only 1 file, so let's upload a bunch of files. We'll do that many. There's a sheep in there, there's a building, there's a bunch more dogs. Hop over here, refresh this page again. Of course, it's almost instantaneous. We see everything indexed. Refresh this page, type back in dog, and there are all our dogs. And if you want to get even more specific, let's just type in corgi. And there is our corgi. So that is how, in just a few minutes, you build a photo search with Firebase, Google Cloud, and Algolia. So all of this is based on open source code that we have that's available on Firebase. Firebase's GitHub. If you just search Firebase function samples, that'll come up. We have Algolia samples. We have things like processing Stripe payments and doing all boring, non-Corgi related things. But you can mix and match. And this specific demo is not available yet, but I will be sharing it and tweeting it out later. So if you want that, follow me on Twitter @AbeIsGreat.
Best Twitter handle ever.
And interestingly, I shouldn't be telling this many people this. My personal email is abeisgreat@abeisgreat.com. So when I started at Firebase, complete tangent. When I started at Firebase, James, the CEO, said, "You got to change your Twitter handle. It's not professional, man. It's not professional." I was like, "Okay, James, okay." And years went by, I didn't change it. Eventually, I came back under his management at Google, and I tried to get abeisgreat@google.com as my email address. And they let me do it. And then 2 hours into my first day, I get a text from James. And he says, "Hope you're having a great day. Change your fucking handle." And I was like, all right, fine. So I'm Abe Haskins at google.com, sadly. But anywho, that's Firebase, Google Cloud, and Algolia. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, now is the time to start asking them. he had a question. You should get a
Oh, I knew you got one. That's for you.
Wait. What type of fidget spinner? That's it. Wait.
2 more fidget spinners for questions. Yeah. Abe left. Did you get your question answered? Okay, your answer.
I'm not going to do one of them.
Oh. I can go all night.
All right. Boom. Firebase fidget spinner as
Oh,
well. There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, you have a question.
I was just going to ask about the location API
Yeah. What about them? Just.
Can this or are there any examples?
I don't know if there's any location-specific samples, but there's absolutely no reason you can't integrate functions with any API. It's not restricted to just Google stuff. So if there is like the Foursquare API or something, you'd be completely capable of integrating with it. And there's definitely examples of interacting with arbitrary APIs, like Stripe and things like that. So you 100% could.
I might have totally missed it, but so what's happening there is is Firebase generating a bunch of tags and that's sending to Algolia? Because Algolia isn't that just like text search?
Yep, that's exactly it. So we're just taking in an image and calling that API and getting back words that describe it and handing those to Algolia and saying index this. And then in that, you can actually see we're also storing the URL of the image, which is how we render that back out. So yeah, all of that data is coming from Algolia. We're just filling Algolia from the Firebase function. Yeah, one of you two.
Yeah, I was going to ask how performant could this be? For example, could it handle, let's say, thousands of images per second?
Absolutely.
The use case I'm thinking of is like, let's say you have a natural disaster like Hurricane Sandy, and you have a lot of like eyewitnesses. They can take images of it and instantly go to a central repository, which gets indexed.
Yeah.
So like, let's say loved ones or authorities or media can instantly search up kind of like different events that correspond to a specific that have images.
So in general, cloud functions are designed to scale to what you need. So if you had thousands and thousands of images coming in, they would all, even if they came in at the exact same second, we would handle spinning up as many environments as you need. So we can see this here a little bit, where I uploaded those 6 images at the same time, and it's spiked up here. It's kind of hard to tell because it's a QPS, and 6 images is a fraction of a QPS, queries per second. So 6 images uploaded at once is like, 1/10 of a QPS. But we can still see this spike here where it didn't just do this in one container. It didn't spin up one VM and call that function 6 times. It spun up 6 VMs all in parallel, did them all, and then uploaded them all. So if you uploaded 1,000 images, I would expect similar performance, if not slightly better, because it would have warm environments to kind of leverage off of each other. But yeah, you could have as many images coming in, and this would just scale up and handle it. Yeah.
In your example, when you wrote the function event handler or event listener, could you change it such that you choose to only run the function when the object change file type is of type image, not of any other type?
So, interestingly, if we search function sample cloud vision, I think this one has that exact thing in there. And this is that big repo, like I said, that has like 1 million examples in here. That one's checking if it's a deletion event. So you definitely can. You can check the MIME type on it. I thought it was in here, but I guess it's not. But yeah, you definitely can. You just have like MIME type data on there. Yeah, again, this is that repo. Like every single one of these is just a different thing implemented with functions. So there's a ton of things here, and you can just search through here and find like making authorized HTTP endpoints and sending FCM notifications and resizing images and thumbnails and all the cool stuff.
Okay, any other questions? We'll have you can do afterwards, Abe, 'cause we're going to keep going. But thank you so much. You're amazing. And fidget spinners. We have more questions.
Do you remember the early?
Do you remember the early mascot at Algolia 1 year ago?
Do I remember?
It was a specific interaction with you. It's a test.
Really? It was an interaction with me?
Uh-huh.
Oh man,
With
a
you and
year
Nicole.
ago. I don't remember.
No fidget spinner for you then.
What was it?
Where's Ben?
Yeah,
Benjamin.
I'm assuming Ben would be the one who knew.
ran across the street.
Oh yeah, yeah, I
And
remember that.
he's tortured by it since, and so that's all he can mention. So I don't know where he's
hilarious.
from. Anyway, that's it. That was it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I have tons more Firebase swag. If you want to come talk to me about Firebase or Google Cloud or anything, I'll be around. And I have tons more. I got shoelaces and stickers and all sorts of stuff.
This is a random question.
Yes.
I saw you were using encrypted.google.com instead of google.com.
Yes.
What's encrypted.google.com?
It just forces HTTPS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not that interesting. not any cool.
Top secret.
Yeah, Google magic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.